מאוחר. אז תודה רבה לדן אריאלי על כל השבוע, על כל ההשקעה בסטארט-אפים, באנשים שאין להם הרבה פעמים הזדמנות לשמוע הרצאות מהסוג הזה. ואני רוצה להזמין לבמה את שירה אייבל, שהיא Native Behavioral Engineer. ושירה היא לא הבינה כל כך את ההרצאה שלך, כי היא דוברת אנגלית, אבל היא עוברת עכשיו לסן פרנסיסקו, והיא רוצה להשתתף בסטארט-אפונומיקס סן פרנסיסקו. אז זאת הבחורה שרציתי להכיר לך. היא אחת החברות שלי הטובות, היא הקימה בעצמה חברת ייעוץ לאונליין מרקטינג, והיא גם חברה טובה וגם אחת הנשים הכי חכמות היום בישראל בתחום הזה. אנחנו צריכים את המסך.
Okay, well, I don't have that yet, but I can get started. What I normally do is I tell the audience that I prefer questions and I like speaking with you instead of at you. Eventually, the first slide will come down, but in the meantime, does anybody have any questions? I talk about marketing. So if you have questions on marketing, on how you actually change behaviors, or it's not really a matter of changing behaviors because you can't change a behavior. Behavior equals, according to BJ Fogg, which was mentioned earlier, behavior is equals to motivation, ability, and a trigger. You have no control over someone's personal motivation. You only have control over their ability, how easy you make the product, and the trigger. If you're sending them an email, if you're going to call them on the phone, if you're sending them a notification on a mobile app. So these are the things that you have control over. You have no way to control their behavior. So somebody asked before about manipulation. Well, if they don't want to do it, they're not going to. So there you go. You can't actually make somebody do something, especially when they're on the other side of a computer and you have no control over their actual actions. Okay, there we go. And I have to say, it's like more than a little nerve-wracking to be following Dan Ariely. So be nice to me. All right. And it's not moving. And it's still not moving. This? No? How do I get it to go? Slides aren't changing. What am I doing wrong? Yeah. Okay. So I have a company. We do marketing and dev and design and branding. And this is us, some of us at least. Here's some of the companies that we've worked with. There's more. That would be me, the agency. I have an MBA from Kellogg. I teach marketing for startups at Tel Aviv Yaffa Academic College. I'm just going to stop there. The deck will be on SlideShare afterwards. And here's something of what we do. So in this case, Anaboom is an animation company. At the time, they were creating animation software, and we had animators all over the world, and we featured their work on our commercial YouTube channel. And part of our revenue was coming from this commercial YouTube channel. And what we had before was a department head of marketing who had a background in SEO and SEM. Do you know what SEO and SEM is? I see heads nodding up and down. Good. Okay. So he tried to game the system in social. And I came in and I changed our methodology of engagement. Instead of telling animators, no, we will not add your Twitter, we will not add your Facebook, we will not add your URL, we actually, because I didn't do it, my assistant did, we wrote to all of the animators and said, we love your work. Thank you so much for doing such an amazing job. We featured you on our YouTube channel, and is there anything that we can do for you? Okay, so that's building up reciprocity. Now, there was 3 years of animators that we had featured and never said thank you to. So imagine the animosity as opposed to reciprocity that we had previously. So we were able to change the animosity over to reciprocity by changing our own behavior and behaving in a giving way. It also doubled our revenues and doubled our views. So what you're looking for when you're building a company is a way to build in a high barrier to entry. And it could be through technology, it could be through behavior, it could be through the trust that you have and the loyalty that you have in your clients, in your And as I said before, simplicity changes behavior. And I already explained that, so I'm just going to keep going. This, on the other hand, is probably the most important slide of the deck. Everyone has been talking more or less about this today. So we all have different action triggers, all right? Reward, status, achievement, self-expression, competition, altruism. These points, levels, challenges, and all of that on the side, these are just examples. I'm sure you can think of many more. So think about this. You don't have to take pictures. It'll be on SlideShare. It actually already is on SlideShare on many, many decks previously. So you'll be able to find it easily enough. I'm going to give you an example of two countries. One of them in Israel, and the other one is Germany. I spent a lot of time over in Germany. You have a question? No, you're just stretching. Okay. So I spent a lot of time over in Germany. I speak there, and I was a judge at Next Berlin, and I'm there a lot. So I see the differences between the two cultures. And I know that Dan spoke about cultures earlier. I didn't completely understand. Okay, I understood about 10%. So I'm sorry if anything that I'm talking about is a repetition of something you already heard today. My Hebrew is shamefully bad, so I couldn't make sure that I wasn't repeating because I don't have any idea what was said. But on to this. All right. So Germany is a very status-oriented society. Okay? They like their cars, they like their watches, they like their clothes. If you have a startup in Germany and you fail, you will never get funding again. If you have a startup in Germany and you get enough money for an exit that you never have to work again, you can tell your friends, I'm never going to work again. And that's a perfectly acceptable thing to do. And Germany has an issue now with innovation. It's in the newspapers and this and that. They have a problem because it's such a status-oriented society that people are really afraid of failure. So instead of starting something on their own or trying something new, they're going into large enterprises and having nice lives, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's a different mindset, which is my point. Israel is an achievement-oriented society. We have second highest level of higher education, okay, second only to Canada. I'm sure we'll get it back soon, and I'm pretty sure we're fairly close on those statistics. If you have an exit and you never have to work again, well, people ask you, when are you doing your next thing? There is no just never working again. Of course you're going to work again. What, you're going to stay home? You're not going to just stay home. Your wife won't let you stay, your mother won't let you stay home. It's simply not an acceptable thing to be doing. You're going to go do the next thing. If you fail at your startup and you are thinking about what to do next, everyone is saying, okay, when are you starting your next one? Because you achieved a product, you achieved funding, you achieved learning, you figured out what you did right and what you did wrong, so when are you doing the next one? It's not a matter of, you know, oh, well, I failed, I'm never going to do it again. We look at things a completely different way. Now, what's the point in this? Who's your customer? There's a car company, an Italian car company, that is a lower priced car. And I saw it in Germany, and I can't remember the name of it. But I was mentioning it to my friend. I was in Leipzig, and I said, I've never seen that car before. It's kind of cute. And he said, it's an Italian car, and you'll be amazed at their advertising. Their advertising says, the anti-status car. That's a status in itself. So it's a completely different mindset, and they know the country and who they're going after so well, their messaging falls in line with it, okay? They turn anti-status into a status. You are so cool, you don't need to show off, so you choose this car instead. And that's the reason why this is important. It's how you build the marketing into your product. It's how you message to your customers. And if you're going and you have different countries and different cultures, you segment. Okay, you segment your emails, you segment your messaging, and you change them accordingly. Now, T-shirt economy. I have an MBA from Kellogg, as I mentioned before, and there was a class at Kellogg, Social Dynamics and Networks. And in this class, there was a case study from Google. And the thing I found most interesting about this case study was they were doing a stock market to find out when things were finishing, okay, when projects were going to be finished. And the stock market, when people did well, they got two things. They got money and they got a T-shirt. So the interesting thing about this was, you know, these are Google engineers, so they already make pretty decent money. They weren't motivated by the money to do the stock market. When the people who ran it didn't give the money, nobody complained. Nobody asked for anything. On the other hand, when they didn't get the T-shirt, the engineers got pissed. Where's my T-shirt? I want my T-shirt. It's a status-oriented society. It is a, I'm going to show you, I did this, where's my T-shirt? Okay? I made this achievement, I want to show it off, where's my T-shirt? Okay, so that's the difference. So if you do things on a monetary scale, or if you do things on a reputation scale, the reactions are different. Another example, oh, backwards. Okay, financial economy. So you've got the two, right? You've got reputation, which is not motivated by money, and then you've got financial, which is motivated by money. But how much are we really motivated by money? So here's the question. Another case study from the same class, Social Dynamics and Networks. This time it was a country in Northern Europe, and they asked two groups of same number inside the country, two questions. One group they asked, we have to put a nuclear power plant somewhere here. Can we, for the good of the country, put it outside of your city? And to the other group, they said, we have to put a nuclear power plant somewhere here. Okay? If we give you 6 weeks' pay every year, can we put it outside of the city? Of the group that they asked, can we do it for the good of the country? 50% said yes. Of the group that they asked, can we do it and then give you 6 weeks' pay? 25% said yes. When we think of things in terms of finance, we think of, is it really worth it for me? Would I pay for this? Do I care about it? And if I don't, why should I bother? On the other hand, if we're doing something from the goodness of our heart for the betterment of others, we're actually more likely to give. Okay? So that's why they've found in so many different workplaces that people will work harder for a passion than they will for more money. Now, how do you put some of these things into practice? Priming. I know that it was mentioned earlier today. I don't know exactly what it was spoken about because it was in Hebrew, but I know that it was mentioned earlier today. So here's a great example of that. The dog icon. Do any of you know what it is from? Besides the fact that this is the Keepu website. Okay, you know the website. Okay, do you know why it's there? Okay, so let me tell you, it's priming. When you click on the icon, a picture of a dog, the dog in the office comes out. That's all it does, okay? But by clicking on that icon, you are suddenly somebody who clicks on icons on this website. And by clicking on that icon and opening up to the dog and then closing it, because you've done it once, you are now somebody who does this action. So you are more likely to do the action again. They found that their conversions to Facebook and Twitter were significantly higher after putting the icon of the dog on their website. It primes your behavior, okay? So this is actual priming in practice. Any questions? Because I hear a lot of whispering. Look, you're on the website in the first place, yeah? You're on the website because you're interested in the company. You're going all the way down to the bottom of the page for a reason. So if you're clicking on this, it's because you're curious. Now, the fact is, you're already there. They're not putting a gun to your head in order to get you to the page, okay? So if you're already slightly interested, this is the action and that's a trigger. So no, I wouldn't call it a manipulation. Guidance, but not a manipulation. Framing, we'll get to that one in a minute. There you go. How you frame it matters, okay? So just as you said, is it a manipulation? I would say it's guiding the consumer to where you would like them to go, but it is their choice whether they go there or not, okay? Another example of this, I was mentoring a startup in Bulgaria, and it was an analytics software company, and they were selling to enterprise. And I started asking him questions, and I asked him, okay, are you offering this, this, and this? And he's like, no, we're not offering that. And I said, okay, are you offering this and this? No. And I'm like, okay. He's like, but we cost less. And I said, yeah, but Enterprises don't care about that. So you're offering enterprises a subpar product for less money that they don't care about. And he gets really upset, and he's like, why is it that nobody's getting it? He's like, I'm pitching it to VCs, and they don't get it, and nobody's understanding what we're doing and why we're doing it. And I'm like, okay, there's something I'm missing here. What are you doing, and why are you doing it? So I kept digging, and he tells me that there's these small, medium enterprises, and they don't have the money that the big guys have, and they also don't need the other analytics. What they need is exactly what he's offering them, okay? So I said to him, well, you're framing it wrong, because right now you sound like you're offering a subpar product to people who don't care, when in reality, you're offering a premium product to an underserved market. And that's a completely different way of framing what they're doing. Because what he was doing was something wonderful. Then he took it and went to a VC and actually got his funding. And they're doing quite well. How you frame things matters. In the same way, we talked before about driving, okay, and the numbers. There was a test also done in Israel and several other countries, similar to the numbers, okay, that go up and down, but of a smiley face and of a sad face. And it was actually proven to be more effective because it's more of an emotional play. All right, we all want to see the smile. Nobody wants to see the frown. So when you speed it up, you saw a frown on the sign, and that was actually a better control than the numbers. Another example of that, loss aversion, okay? Italy, they have the point system. In Israel, your point systems goes up. When you go to 12, you lose your license. In Italy, the point system goes down because they found loss aversion to be more of an incentive than the points going up. When the points went up, they felt like they achieved something, and they found more people doing things that they shouldn't. So they had to switch it so that it goes down. Australia is the same way. I'm not sure what it says about both cultures, but I found it really interesting. That would be loss aversion. So when you think about where you're framing, okay? Don't lose out on this offer. It's only going to be around for a limited time. You could already think of a million times you've heard this in previous advertising. That's why. We're all afraid of losing out, okay? Fear of losing out, follow. So. Another one, inclusion, an Easter egg. We all love to feel like we're special and we're part of something and that other people may not get it. So how many of you recognize Nimbus 2000 and broomsticks? Anyone? Okay, so where's it from? Exactly, Harry Potter. Now, an IT person or somebody who's on Mixpanel is likely to know this, but not everybody does. I've spoken into entire audiences who are like, I have no idea. And you know, the odds are they're not using Mixpanel. Mixpanel knows their audience really, really well. So here's a great example. Another one, I love this one. Achievement. If you're achievement oriented, you're gonna feel really good getting this. This is power user status achieved. You're all out of notifications, please pay us. Exactly, okay? So you have just earned the right to pay us. We're not giving you any more for free. You're somebody who uses this a lot. Pay us and you can get more. Okay, and when you get people to come in, how do you get them to come back and share, all right? Well, think about what your user's doing. This is a great resource for afterwards, the user narrative. And then how many of you know all about the hook? Do I need to get into this? I see one. Anybody want to hear it again? Oh, okay, plenty of you. Okay, so the hook, how does it work? Now I'm going to explain it using my Pinterest addiction, okay? So Pinterest, I go into this, first of all, I'm going to assume you've already had them onboarded. Do you know what onboarding is? Yes, generally, okay. Onboarding is how you get somebody to come into the site and convert in the first place. You've got the onboarding done, and I'll give you a couple resources for that in a few slides up. So you've got the onboarding done. Then the person is either going to get a notification or an email. For me, it's an email, and the email says, my friend has liked something, or these boards have been done, or whatever, right? So that's an external trigger. And the external trigger leads to an action. The action is me going to the website, or usually on my iPad. So I go over on my iPad, and the variable reward, I go through the site, and I see some pictures I like and some pictures I don't. Every time I see a picture that I like, I get a dopamine rush, because it's a variable reward. If you're expecting the reward, you don't get the dopamine rush. You just feel good, but it's not the same thing. You don't get addicted to just feeling good. You get addicted to that dopamine rush. It's a chemical reaction in your body, okay? So that's where the habit comes from. So you've got the variable reward. The investment is my time and everything that I do, from pinning boards and liking something and everything else, okay? That's the investment. But here's the thing, once I do it the first time, I have subconsciously become someone who spends time doing this. Well, if I did it once, it must be worth my time, especially since I got the dopamine rush, so I enjoyed it. So that takes me over. I am somebody who does this. I get another external trigger, another email, I go back over to the site because I've already proved to myself through investment that I'm the type of person who does this. So I go back up, I spend more time on the site, more variable rewards, more dopamine rushes, go back over, more time invested, and it goes all the way through until one Friday morning I wake up and say to myself, gosh, I wonder what's on Pinterest today, and end up wasting an entire day on Pinterest instead of doing things that I should be. So that is how a Pinterest addiction gets started, okay? This is how an addiction to Facebook or Twitter, the likes that you get, the hearts that you get on Instagram, that's what they're all there for. Every time you get something like that, that is engineering a reaction of feeling good. And people can get addicted to that feeling. And as you're going through and you're building your product, you're going to watch the funnel. So either it's a B2B or a B2C, you're still going to watch the funnel. Because otherwise, if you're not making money, you're not going to live. So this is important. So, acquisition, this is how you learn about the product. It's either through an ad, or it's through word of mouth, or through some PR, but whatever. You're finding out about it from somewhere, or else it doesn't exist. Conversion is when you actually sign up. Retention, you're using the product. Word of mouth is sharing, and then buy. If you have a product where they need to buy before the word of mouth, then that's reversed. Pretty simple. You have to watch the funnel, and you watch the funnel really well. Figure out where you're losing people, and then figure out how to bring them back. Now, onboarding. I mentioned it before. These are just a couple of resources for you that are really good. This is for web. This is for mobile. They're both really brilliant sites. I highly recommend them. Really good emails. Why? Okay, that trigger that we talked about before. Email marketing has the highest ROI of all digital marketing. I'm going to say it again. Email marketing has the highest ROI of all digital marketing. Now I want you to say it. Email marketing, come on, I want to hear you, has the highest ROI of all digital marketing. It does, okay? And it's important. You remember that? Because spam works, that's why you still get it. Okay. Now, you've got an app, or you've got a site. You want to engineer social proof. But how do you do that? You don't want people to write about you if they're not happy. So you give them different options, happy, confused, unhappy. If they're happy, write a review. If they're confused, here's a guide, and here's a way to our team. And if they're unhappy, straight to the team. Notice, if they're unhappy, you don't ask them to write a review. Okay? So this is, which is? Exactly. So this is how you make sure they do that. She said there's an expression in Hebrew, if you like it, tell your friends. If you didn't like it, tell us. This is engineering that into a product. So another example, asking for reviews and update notes if you have a mobile app. Okay? Why? Because if somebody likes you enough to read the update notes all the way to the bottom, ask them to do a review. They actually really care about your product. And then when do you ask to get an okay? Now, if you're doing a mobile app, you know that 40% of the downloads are deleted the following day. That really hurts. Then if you ask people for permissions and you ask them when they first open up the app, you know that 40 to 60% are going to say no automatically, even if it's a permission they actually need to give to use the app properly. So how do you get them to say yes? What do you do? Well, you wait until it's a user action that triggers the request. That's the only way, that's the best way in order to make sure that you're going to get a yes. The other thing is that if you could get them to be in some sort of pain before doing it, in other words, say they need to access your address book, have them add one person at a time, and then when they try to add that one person, you say, well, you know, it's a lot easier if we can access your whole address book, and then they say yes. Same thing from here. And, all right, you've got somebody, you need to get information. You want to get all of the information, but you don't want to, you want to let them know that only certain things are required. If you want to get all the information or be more likely to get all the information, only show them which ones are optional and make it subtle. They're more likely to fill out everything. Voluntary over-disclosure is actually better than saying these are the only ones that are required, because people only want to give what's actually required. Okay? When you point it out, that's all they're going to do. If you point out the things that are optional, it's more subtle. They're more likely to fill the whole thing out. Yeah? No, that's why it shows optional. So if you don't fill out the other ones, it simply says at the top, you need to fill out these pieces. But statistically, they found that by just showing the optional, as opposed to the other side, significantly higher rate of everything being filled out as opposed to just a part of it. So this is taking everything that everyone's talked about today and putting it into practice. Again, I was talking before, dopamine rush, that number 5 right there with the love, okay? Every time I see that, I know that somebody's liking something that I'm doing, and I go back to check it. Same thing here, over on the side, all of the likes and all the comments. Now, everybody, you all familiar with Dropbox, yes? You're familiar with how they grew? I don't need to tell this story? Okay, good. Now, how do you end up doing, how do you pull triggers? Triggers can be email. Triggers can be notifications. How you say things matters. That's a matter of framing. Okay? And here's a bunch of emotional triggers for you to check out later. And cognitive resources. Imagining spending all day at a conference understanding 10% of what's going on, my cognitive resources are spent. I did everything I could to try and understand everything as much as possible, and the poor woman sitting next to me asking her questions while things were going on. So think about what time of day it is, how much their cognitive resources are. Do you know what cognitive resources are? Actually, I'm just going on about it without even knowing. Do you know what cognitive resources are, yes or no? No, okay. So cognitive resources is your brain power. So in the morning, after you've had a really good night's sleep and say a run, and you're totally with it, and you're just raring to go, and you can get into the flow at work, and everything is amazing, your cognitive resources are high. After you've spent a day with the kids, and they've been interrupting you every 30 seconds, and you've had to get a whole bunch of different things done, and you've been running everywhere, and running errands, etc., and so forth, your cognitive resources are spent. Okay, that's your cognitive resources. How much brain power do you have left for what it is, whatever task you're going to do? And you're going to find that at the end of the day, you have less resources than you do in the beginning of the day. And actually, there was a study shown that judges are more likely to give lenient, thank you, judgments, whatever, earlier in the day than they are at the end of the day. Okay, so you're more likely to go and do some harsh jail time if they judge your hearing at night than they do in the morning. Something to consider if you ever end up there. Knowing your market is important, okay? So how do you engineer going viral? Well, knowing your market. Dropbox, when they first got started, put this video on Dig, which was the Reddit of the day, and they went viral for their market. And that's what got them started. There are some Easter eggs in here. Easter eggs is the inclusion that you saw earlier with the broomsticks okay, so that's an Easter egg. Things that you're not expecting. And viral if you can. Now, it's hard to engineer it, of course, but if you can, then it's great. This is the first slide that I showed you on steroids. It's a rabbit hole of a website with everything that you could possibly want to learn about behavioral engineering and gamification. I'm not diving into this now. If you've got any questions, let me know. Thank you. Questions? Any? Yes? No? Nothing?